Ah, c'est toi et moi. C'est toi et moi. Ha. Écoute, c'est toi et moi. C'est toi et moi. Et si tu savais, tu saurais que tu ne sais pas. Et si tu savais, tu saurais que tu ne sais pas. Moi je ne sais pas, donc je ne prétends pas que je sais. Attends une seconde, moi c'est Moullah et je me présente d'abord. Toi c'est qui? Ah, écoute. Hey, c'est toi et moi. On est là dans cette chambre, on parle de quoi? Je ne sais pas, mais on parle de quoi? On parle de quoi et on parle de ça, yeah? Yeah, c'est Mr. Moullah. Je suis là et je fais ce que je veux. Y'en a rien à cirer de ce que tu penses. Ce beat il est bon, il est con. Et comme s'il est bon et con, moi je le prends, je le mange. Et puis je le mange, je l'avale. Je l'avale et je le digère. Attends une seconde. Hello. Welcome once again to Kings and Queens Talk Podcast. I am your host, King MOULAH, and I am here to entertain. Well, before we get started, I just wanted to touch a couple of points about some important things today. Because recently a lot of us been faced with death and the loss of somebody who is close to us. I myself just lost my brother about a month ago, and it was difficult to deal with. But I also realized that a lot of people who go through that don't have all the proper tools to deal with it properly. You know, we all know, I mean, not all, but most of us believe in a higher power. And it's important that we return to the higher power when some things like that happen in our lives, some things that we don't have any control over. It's very difficult because it's somebody you love, somebody who's close, and to not see that person again is hard. But the best we can do in those situations is to pray for that person and, just like be positive and remember the good memories when it comes to that. So, to my brother, Mohammed Baba, 1980 to 2001, rest in peace. God bless you. You're always going to be remembered. And no matter what happened, I'm always going to make sure you receive the blessings and the prayers you're supposed to. I'll make sure I take care of your daughter and your seed, and I'll make sure that your legacy is well respected and how you left it. So rest in peace, brother. And on that note, I'm here with another brother of mine. This is older brother. I've been in Las Vegas for about 4 years now. I was blessed to know this brother for the past 3 years. And he's been a mentor. He's been a guide. He's been like a support. No matter what the situation is, good or bad, he's always been around. And it's truly an honor and pleasure today to have him and just have a little discussion, have a little talk. And I'm honored that he's my first guest. And I introduce to you Mara Diakhate.
Thank you, King MOULAH, and it's my pleasure to be here and to be part of the first broadcast for the King and Queens Talk. All my condolences again to your brother. As we come, as we go. So we just pray that where he is better to, where he left. And yes, Mara is just a simple Senegalese who migrated to the United States, around the late 90s. And I'm very devoted and I would say very attached to my culture, even living in the western coast sides. So I've been here for 4 years. I lived in California for 12 years, Washington, D.C. for another 8 years. And so far, California and Nevada been a real good niche for me, talking about expanding the culture where I'm really highlighting most of my activities.
Okay, that is awesome. That is absolutely wonderful. I remember when I first met you, it was through some cultural events. And Mara is definitely an example. This is a book that I wanted to introduce. It's called Talking Wolof. For those of you who don't know, Wolof is the national language of Senegal. The official language of Senegal is French because it's a French colony. The national language of Senegal is Wolof. And in Senegal, you have another 20, 30 languages that are spoken in that country alone. So again, I encourage everyone to go do some more research about a specific country. Africa is big. It's about 52 countries, and each country is different. Like, we can say Senegal, Mali, Mauritania, we have very similar cultures, but still there are some differences. So it's important that you go and look up different countries in Africa. Don't just say West Africa and just, think you know. So this book, he wrote this book. When did you write this book exactly?
2014. It was under a project called Obama Recovery Act. So it was a national program that each president, I think, been doing for many years. And it's more like to present something that can be beneficial to any African American for the outside world. And I wanted to propose these for the African Americans so they can at least speak an African language. And it's not a complicated book, as the Wolof is written as it sounds to any African Americans is. So the way you read it, that's the way it's going to sound. And Wolof is spoken in mostly 3 countries in West Africa: Senegal, Gambia, Mali, and you might hear some around Burkina Faso and Guinea.
Mm-hmm. And there's a little map of West Africa and where Senegal is located exactly. So I don't know if you can see that right there, but if you go and Google and do some research, it will come up. So again, Wolof is spoken, in 3-4 different countries in West Africa. Senegal is where it's spoken mainly, and then it's a very easy to use book because, for example, if you want to say how are you, we say Nagadef, and right here it says, how are you? Nangadef. It's not written as a book. It's really written as everyday terms and everyday, words that we would use and how you would say that. For example, if I go over here, how do you say, thank you? You say Jerejef, and it's spelled Jerejef. It's really spelled how you will spell it. I recommend this book to anyone who wants to learn a language, African language. I feel like Wolof is one of the easiest languages to learn. I speak 7 languages, and 5 of them is African languages. As you might know, my father is from Mali and my mother's from Senegal, so I inherited from three countries because I was born and raised in Mauritania. So, but out of all the languages that I speak, Wolof is the easiest. It's really easy to flow in. We speak Wolof sometimes with some friends, even though we're here in America for a long time. We always try to hold on to our cultures. So this is one book. This is just one of many, many, many things that these men right here have done and is doing, continuously. So before we go back to his story, I wanted to show you some other articles that I actually purchased from his store. It's called the Africa Love Store. There is one in Las Vegas. The one in Las Vegas is at the Town Square Mall. There is one that he recently just started in where is it? In New Orleans.
Yeah, New Orleans.
And that one, I don't know exactly where it's at. Where is it?
Magazine Street.
Magazine Street in New Orleans. If you're around, stop by. And do you have one in California too, I believe?
In Venice Beach.
And one in Venice Beach. So this man been sharing his culture for the past, God knows how long, past 20 years, but I don't even want to misspeak because I know it's probably longer than that. So now I wanted to go back and ask you, how did you get into wanting to share your culture before you left Africa? Because for me, for example, I left Africa and I came to America because I wanted to go to school, study, and find a better life. But was it the same thing for you, or what led you to this path?
I was a professional tour guide, but most importantly, I was specialized for African Americans in Senegal. So after my first year university for law, because I was in law department, I've always been very interested about the American history. And especially, I always, when I say American history, you just take everything, geography, I was always been very impressed about how America, in terms of history, how it come to lead the whole world. And I do remember when I was in high school, anytime we have to do a test and the subject is out of the United States, everybody will be laughing knowing that I didn't study anything. But when it's about the US, they can see that I'm flying out of it. So just to know how
that's where your interest was.
Exactly. So, and when I first had my opportunity to my first job as a tour guide, I started meeting Americans in general. It can be white and black and all of that. But out of it, I was very impressed and very impressed about just the African Americans. And I start specializing myself into the African Americans tour. And luckily, I get a chance during those years, early in my age, in Senegal.
And this was in Senegal, right?
In Senegal.
Okay. So in Senegal, before you even left Senegal, that's when you started with tourism,
exactly.
by helping people tour Senegal.
Yeah.
So when people would come in Senegal to visit, you was like one of the people that would show them around and really
tour guide.
So you were sharing the culture even before you left Senegal.
Yes.
So that's important. Okay, go ahead.
So I was a tour guide working in this company called Albay Travel Service and another one called African Connection Tours. So I was mainly their tour guide, where we have to really travel a lot and input a lot of culture and sharing with the African Americans, which was very different from the white tourism, because through our experience, we know that, mostly when we say white tourism, it's all about buildings and age and stuff. But African American was different, because we talked about culture. And themselves, when they come to Africa, they even call it a pilgrimage. So it's more like founding their newfound friends and family that they lost, and I was immersed into that
connection.
Exactly, and it became more and more interesting, where I was lucky to be right away out of the lot of the professional tour guide known in Dakar, and I got the chance to guide celebrities such as Jesse Jackson for 2 weeks, the tennis lady Serena Williams, Larry Hales.
So they came to Africa, and you helped them reconnect for whatever purpose.
Yes, they came travel through agency that I was working in, and I happened to be the tour guide. That's how it started. Okay. Later on, I got it, celebrity that I have on my own.
We'll get to that. Okay.
So and from that point, it's just, you have a guest, and especially I'm from Senegal, known as the country of teranga and
hospitality.
So you gotta show the best of what your country has, and I have to be able to share the best with, so they can have a good memories when they go back.
Okay. So basically, at home, you was working as a tour guide, people would come, and then that sparked your interest. So now, how did you go from Senegal to, what was the first country you visited outside of Senegal?
It was Gambia, next door, of course. And I mean, before that, even I used to go when I was younger to France. My father was living there. But Africa, I studied like neighbors like Mali and Senegal. And I had the opportunity one day to be traveling with a Japanese company that came to Senegal throughout our programs with West African region to open a fishing market throughout Africa. And I think it was almost all West African countries. And I was selected to travel with them. So that was the first time I was able to discover Mauritania, Gambia, Benin, Ivory Coast, Sierra Leone, Liberia, what else? Ghana. So I did all those countries with those Japanese.
So before you even left Africa, you did like about 7, 8, 10 countries in Africa.
Oh, more than that, yeah.
Because like for someone like me, I only did Mauritania, Senegal, Mali, and Gambia before I came to the United States. I haven't even been to Europe. I came straight here. But I think there is a certain importance to like go to other countries in Africa before you even leave. So now what I want to ask you leading to that is like, what was the first country outside of Africa that you visited, and how did that happen?
It was Europe, because I was doing some modeling, back in the days, and I was hiding.
You was modeling too? Oh, okay.
And a very hiding modeling, because,
hiding way.
Of course, who knows, in Senegal, it's always been the number one African country when it's come to modeling. So we have representations all over. And I was just kind of wanting to be in. One of my uncle was leading a dance company that was involved modeling in it. So, and I get to start, having some little travel out of it. But I was hiding. My father never wanted it. So when I discovered, when my mom started saying that, I would start being out of TV, and I'm like, okay, this is going to be a problem. So I had to stop. But it's something.
So hold on, you didn't tell your father, but you stopped.
Yeah, I stopped.
But your father never found out?
Until now, I think I never talked to him.
Oh, yeah? Wow, okay. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So that shows you, like, just to make a little interaction, that shows you how important it is for us, like, that your father or your mother
to make them happy. If my mother don't want me to do something, no matter how old I am, I will always try not to do it, even if it's a career. Like, he had a whole career in modeling. He went to Europe and he was doing it to the point where he was going to be famous. But because of that, and he knew that his father wasn't going to approve, he stopped. So that's the difference. Like, sometimes, like in our culture, we will not do certain things that we really want to do because our parents don't want us to do it. So it's just different in culture. And that's just like something we grew up with. Because we get some questions about what's the difference between the African man and the African American man. And I feel like the difference is really systematic. We were blessed enough to grow up in a system that allowed us to learn different languages, different cultures without too much work. So African American grew up in a system where it's really self, and it's not very open to the outside world and the outside culture. But that's changing. So hopefully a podcast like this will help, shed some more light to that. So yes, go ahead, France. You was modeling, so your father never found out.
I stopped it, but it came back to me because now I have store where I'm organizing. I think right now I'm organizing the biggest African fashion show in Las Vegas.
In Las Vegas, that's right.
It came back to me. Not other model, but other organizer.
As an organizer,
he was a host,
Yes, I remember that.
So
we're going to talk about that.
Yeah, it always comes back. It's something that I believe, like you said, we always been facing this generation gap with our fathers. And of course, I can understand why certain things they never wanted us to be involved in because at that time, if I remember back in the day, it was more like leading to certain activities. They never wanted to see their son to be on. We were talking about drug and, prostitution and all of that. So and I can understand that. So today, but I didn't regret the piece of that I tested in the experience.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm using it. Yeah.
Yes, it was like that with my father too. When I started doing music at 14, 15, and I wanted to be a rapper, he didn't approve because back then, their mentality was associating modeling, acting, and rapping to negativity. So, and then my father started seeing me sagging my pants and not tucking my shirt, so that the style wasn't already pleasing. So to him, they didn't know too much about it, but that we was the first generation to rap in Mauritania. So it was really like a battle, but I understand that struggle. So now after Europe, so you went to Europe, you did a little bit of modeling, but you had to stop that. So when you stopped that, what did you do in the meantime? Were you still in Europe, or why you came back to Senegal, or how did your journey continue from there?
I was already tour guide. It was just two things I was doing at the same time. So I came back. I never been, I never believed that I was even an immigrant because I never stay out of, like even in the US, I've been here for all these 20 plus years, but I never stay more than 6 months. So I always go back.
You always go home every 6 months.
I'm a kind of what we call in Africa, this nomadic Fulani.
Nomadic Fulani. You're home in Senegal, but you're not there 6 months out of the year.
Exactly.
So 6 months out of the year, you might come and go. Basically, your come and go, if you add it up together, it might add up to 6 months.
Exactly.
And then you're staying here. If you add it up, you're going to stay up. Because I know that you do yearly pilgrimage, which I want to talk about in a little bit. I know you do a lot of activities here as far as, the African Village Festival that you do yearly, and other things. But I wanted to get to your story, your journey, until we get to that. So because it's an interesting journey how you got here. So basically, in Europe you were still touring and all that, and you still go back and forth. Now, how did it develop from? I know you've been here 20 years. So how did it shift from Europe to here, pretty much?
Just get back to what I was using to do. It was just like I said, between brackets that I was doing as activities. Went back and started touring. And the more I was touring, the more I was receiving a lot of Americans. I would say, I always tease friends to say, I lived in the United States 10 years before I came in here. Because being a tour guide at that time, back in the day, we're talking about, late 90s. So you have these two airlines, Panama and Air Afrique. They were all going through Dakar. So that was a time when a lot of African Americans will be going easily to Senegal. And that means we'll be so busy that you finish a 2 weeks tour. By the time you get to the airport, there's another flight coming, and they said, stay there, and you keep going. And I would say I was hanging more with the American than even the Senegalese in the soil of Senegal.
So you had the American culture in you 10 years before you even came here.
I mean, my life was every day with Americans. Okay. I wake up, I'm with them. I stay with them in the hotels. I travel with them. I'm not even home. Like I really, since I started working, I never been back to my parents' house because I'm always staying in hotels with them, traveling, coming, and I'll even speak more English than my language.
That's right. So like your English developed real quick, and you haven't even left Africa yet.
And of course you start dating them too. So
exactly. So you see, you can learn something from this because a lot of times people have the perception that they can't go to Africa because they're scared to go to Africa because they don't know what to expect. But what I want you to take from this is that don't be scared to go to Senegal. You go to Senegal, you'll get a tour guide who's going to show you around, who's going to take care of you. It's an experience. It's really an experience that I wish more people would take advantage of. So that's why I'm stopping it to make sure that you take this from this little piece because it's important. It's not even just Senegal. Any country in Africa, do your homework. Just make sure there is no little war or little thing going on in that country, and you can go. You can go, you find an agency. There are agencies that go to all these countries in Africa. Every country in Africa, there are airplanes that goes there. There are agencies. You can set it up. If you're worried about safety, find you an African friend. So, we're going to go back to that subject. Every African American need an African friend. It don't matter from what country, because you're going to be able to get some of the real culture and the real facts, because the TVs and the internet and the schools really fooled us from both sides. So we need to tell our own stories from our own perspective. So yes, it's important. If you have the ability to go, go. America, we look at America as the top of the pyramid. All these other countries are right there below. So you can really pick any country to go. And your passport is one of the most powerful passports in the world. You don't need a visa to go anywhere. You can just pick yourself up and get your passport and get your ticket and go anywhere pretty much in the world. Except Russia, of course.
And Gambia.
And China. But anyways, that's politics. We don't do politics here, okay? So, yes, back to, my guest again. This is Mara Diakhate. We are here in Las Vegas, and this is Kings and Queens Talk Podcast. And he's gonna finish telling us his journey, and we're gonna get to the interesting part, what he's been doing here in America for the past 10, 15, 20 years, and, what is his future plans and, what we're gonna do pretty much. So, go ahead. So basically, you were talking about, where was we again?
Coming back, guiding and being part of them.
Being a lot with the Americans.
Yes. Okay. So that's how it started. So my everyday life was just with Americans, and I would say African Americans. And through that lifestyle of every day, it takes me to another interesting part of now discovering who are they and what they was telling me, what I know about even to the story of slavery, And of course, we tell them to the way we know what slavery was about, because it's not just about the culture. We go through the history. And they will be there also responding to certain things. They will tell me that was going on as information in the United States, that I was very confused, because what they told me and what I learned
is two different things. Exactly.
So it started taking me to a point where it was a confusion, but at the same time, I need to really see where the truth was. But the fact is that it was easy for me to know what I learned in Africa was more true than what they telling me, because fact that they will, anytime I ask them, it's always come through books. In those books, they learn those stuff. And I do know, if you go back in the day, at those time, there was no black editor. There was only white editor. So which means things can be changed to any way.
Yes, we didn't tell our own stories.
So on my side, as an African, I didn't learn from a book. I learned from grandparents who their grandparents tell them what was happening during the time of slavery. Nobody can explain now anymore what happened to Kunta Kinte, because it's a movie with roots. Yeah. It was caught by force to the jungle and brought into America. So everybody know. But more likely also, we will know other stuff that sitting and talking, because who know most of part of Africa, we have what we call our storytellers. And the storytellers, known as griots, they're the ones that always can recall a history of a family and a village.
And they pass it down from
exactly, and it's from generation to generation. Yeah. So I'm not the griot, but I happen to be in my lifetime wanting to stay with all the people and hearing their stories. It's always been a
curious mind.
To me.
Yeah.
And that's what actually brought me to be a tour guide.
Okay.
And also that's what makes me very different as the way I'm guiding in Senegal. Because I didn't learn from school. Even if I've been to school, but school only taught me dates and war and stuff, but they don't taught me those stuff.
So basically, you are in a perfect position to see the differences between what school teaches us and what really happened. Because really, when people tell you and you get it from like people who's been there and you come from generation to generation, it's like, okay, this is what really happened. Now the question is like, why does the book tells a different story? So that's why we have to be careful on where we get our information from. A lot of the information might be tainted, might be, like not said the right way. So at the end of the day, we have to really be careful and understand that information is important when we get it from the TV, the internet source, but it's also good that we can have like a people to people. Because if you can call somebody in Japan who lives there, they'll be able to tell you what's going on in Japan better than the TV or the internet. So that's just like the bottom line, pretty much.
Yeah, so, it's just a fact. And plus, I always tell people that sometimes, as an African, to us, we don't need to live 300 years back to understand what happened 300 years back. Mm-hmm. We can still, because there is some change, but it's just a form, but we're still the same. Mm-hmm. And the kind of a way we've been also with our, the white people in the history, nothing changed to it. It's just form change. They're still the same.
It's just different techniques, right?
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So, and if you base onto that and seeing who you are still today, there's a lot of things that questions can be answering easily. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to give you just one example. Like if you like how, let's take the word slave. Mm-hmm. If you translate slave in our local language in Wolof, it's called jam. Mm-hmm. Same translation.
Jam, yes.
But meaning is different. Mm-hmm. Because what we say slave as jam, if you ask me if I have a slave, even today right now, I will say yes. And I think I have 4 jams. Okay. Mm-hmm. But those slaves I have, they're not that slave, that's my servitude. Like if I happen to have any naming ceremony or wedding or whatever, those of my slaves will be the ones that will be the host. They will be the ones that sit the guests, feed the guests, welcome them and all of that. Mm-hmm. And in return, when the activity is finished, I will receive gift from other people that gave it to me that I will share with my griot. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of what we can.
So it's important to clarify because like the word slave in here in America or in the Western civilization been so tainted. Like we use servants, and the reason why, like, you can just go and hire other people to do that, but because Africa we have structure, so you can go and find your griot. Every family is structured, so because we know where we're from, and you can go back to your village, you can trace your root and your class, and everybody have a class, and there's always some people below you, and there are always some people above you. So now when something is going on, some people that are higher class than you, like not everybody, but they have their servants. Everybody have their servants. It's not slave like the same definition as slavery, but servant. Now those servants are servant to him by DNA, by trade, by family. It didn't start in a day. It didn't start today, or it didn't start 2 days ago. It's like something that's been going on from generations to generations. Even the servant cannot deny his servitude because it's in his blood. He cannot say, I'm not his servant just because I don't want to be. It's a DNA thing. But anyway, that's a little bit deeper and a little harder to understand.
C'est toi et moi. C'est toi et moi.